Hey, everybody. I am Rithesh Menon, the Managing Director of the Webby Awards, and welcome to our virtual community event for our Way Too New Thought Leadership Series. We are super excited to kick off what is the first of many of these events to come this year with our friends over at Podcast Movement. So with that, I'd like to invite Dan Franks, co-founder and president of Podcast Movement, to join me on screen.
Hey, Rithesh. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be a part of the first one of the year, the kickoff event, so it's going to be a fun one.
No, likewise, Dan. And we're super thrilled to be here and to get a chance to share our Webby Talks for this year with the Podcast Movement community.
Yeah, super excited. We've shared it far and wide, so hopefully the podcasters in the audience really dig what you're about to show us.
No, awesome. And, this year's talk is great because, it's really about innovation, and we're looking at two kind of areas where that stuff is happening pretty quick. And I'm kind of keen afterwards to have a cool conversation with you and just see, what this might hold for the podcasting industry at large.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So with that, why don't we go into the presentation, and I will see you in about a half hour.
Let's do it. Looking forward to it.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. Slight technical delay there. Thank you, Dan, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. Now, before we begin, I want to give a shout out to our producer, Emma, who is helping me behind the scenes with this presentation. So if we run into any hiccups and you hear me speaking with someone, it'll be her. Now, I'm going to present for about the next 25 or 30 minutes. And at the end of that, we'll have some time for a great discussion with Dan. You should see a chat box on your screen, so please feel free to drop in any questions throughout the presentation, and Dan and I will be sure to get to them at the end. So with that, let's get started. So I want to begin by sharing a bit about the Webby Awards. The Webby Awards are the internet's highest honor. Established in 1996 during the web's infancy, we are now in our 26th season. Last year, we got over 13,500 entries from more than 80 countries around the world. The Webby Awards are presented by an academy of over 3,000 exceptional individuals, the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences. Last year, we saw a ton of incredible work, and this impressive body of people, including some new judges, took time to judge all of this amazing work. But when it came time to celebrating, things looked a little different than the usual. For a second year in a row, the Webby Awards show was an entirely virtual event. Still, it was nothing short of a celebration of the very best of the internet. Let's take a quick look at last year's Webby Awards.
The best in internet creation. We are so excited to honor some of them here at the 25th Annual Webbies. All right, ready to see some winners.
Family, God, country, mahalo, tequila.
When there is cause that needs her voice, Ava shows up and Ava speaks out.
Don't believe everything you think.
Make Juneteenth a paid holiday.
Powerful books can open minds.
Me, happy, win, group, effort. Yeah!
Click around, experience the whole show or just pieces.
Thank you, family. God bless.
And it is my greatest privilege to honor Yara Shahidi as the first Webby's Advocate of the Year.
We don't integrate, we recreate.
Ready, Mo?
I'm ready.
Choose happy.
Thank you, Celeste, for your beautiful work. We love you.
Like and subscribe, you guys.
Always speak truth to power.
Webby Breakout of the Year.
And remember, don't trust anyone.
Congratulations, my dear friend. You deserve this.
Longer tables, not higher walls.
Thanks. See you in Vegas?
Thank you to the team.
Working together, building better tomorrows.
Hard work and luck
magic.
Thank you so much for watching, and see you all next year when we are shoulder to shoulder and face to face, hopefully.
Great 5-word speeches. Ava DuVernay, Yara Shahidi, and of course, The Rock. And that was our 25th Annual Webby Awards. Now, before we begin the presentation, I want to thank some very important sponsors who are making Webby Talks possible. This year's talks are presented by WP Engine, which powers the freedom to create online for businesses of every size at every stage. Brandlive, who are helping the world's most innovative companies elevate the way they communicate with their audiences. And YouGov, the leading global market research and data analytics group who fielded our custom research to draw the insights we will present to you today in this presentation. Now, before we proceed, let me tell you a quick background on the Webby Talks. Now, in our 11th year, the Webby Talks is part of our annual thought leadership series that explores the digital trends impacting our world and our work. The presentation is informed by insights from surveys of more than 3,000 American consumers and more than 3 months of research by the Webby Awards team, including a review of the rising trends from more than 13,500 submissions that we received to the last Webby Awards. Now, in the past, our Webby Talks have included topics like how the internet radically transformed our relationships, work, and ourselves, or about the importance of individual agency during the rise of AI-based decisions, or disinformation, social media bubbles, and the rise of conspiracy theories like QAnon. So this year we thought, let's not present any deep questions about the nature of technology and its impact on society. Let's not do any of that. Instead, let's go with something a little bit lighter, because right now we're still trying to figure out what exactly normal is, right? Because it's not just normal, it's the new normal. And even then, whatever it is constantly changing. Now, you'd think we know this by now just because we've been hearing this expression for quite a while. So I decided to look on Google Trends going back a few years. And there you go. You see it ramp up in April 2020, and it's been going strong ever since. Just for fun, I decided to go a little further back, and I was pretty surprised by the results. There's April 2020 now, which is just a speed bump. So does anyone know what that huge spike is around 2010? Trust me, I did not. It was a short-lived sitcom from the creator of Glee called The New Normal. Pretty hard to get more 2010 than that. To put it into perspective, that's where we are with this whole new normal term. But the point is, there's so much change. It's happening so fast, and it's hard to keep up. So we decided to design a presentation to get everyone up to speed. Let's begin with what is causing this accelerated innovation over the last 2 years. So the whole world went online, and there was intentional adoption, massive investments in technology, which basically removed any geographical limitations and digital inhibitions. And this basically brings us to way too new, an overview of the unprecedented explosion of online innovation loaded with examples and insights from the leading brands building our digital future. And in today's presentation, we're going to look at innovations that are happening in 2 areas: online gaming and live stream commerce. Let's begin with online gaming, or as I like to call it, not just for nerds anymore. Now, when I think of gaming, I'm probably thinking of, a hideous ergonomic chair, sci-fi computer towers, comical ultra-wide monitors, and an esoteric selection of over-caffeinated beverages. Now, you add all of these things together, and the image that probably comes to mind is this guy. But this is a very dated and fairly uninformed view, because the definition of who is a gamer has changed dramatically over the last few years. Our data pulled in partnership with YouGov kind of helps us understand this a little better. 50% of the people we surveyed were women who game at least once a week for more than 30 minutes. Also, they're across all age groups. 42% are 18 to 34, 31% are 35 to 54, and 27% are over 55 years old. So what this tells us is all gamers are not men, and they're definitely not young. It's not niche anymore either. Over 166 million US adults play video games pretty regularly. And a lot of this gaming is happening right now online in virtual worlds, or as they're known, metaverses. This term has been in the news a lot recently. Epic is building one, so is Roblox, and more recently, Facebook, who's hiring 10,000 people to help build a metaverse. So what exactly is the metaverse? Well, I know when I'm looking for accurate information on a complicated subject to be distilled into something understandable, I go to one place, or actually to one person, Jim Cramer. Take it away, Jim.
Which really explains what the metaverse is, which is the idea that you're looking at, basically, you can be an Oculus, whatever, and you say, I like the way that person looks in that shirt. I want to order that shirt, and ultimately it's an NVIDIA, based on NVIDIA. And when I was at NVIDIA with Jensen Huang, what happens? It's conceivable. Okay, David, listen to me, because it's important.
I'm reading what Zuckerberg has to say about it.
He didn't tell you enough.
No, he did.
Did say, no, he didn't.
A persistent, synchronous environment where we can be together, which I think is probably going to resemble some kind of a hybrid between the social platforms we see today, but an environment where you're embodied in it.
Okay.
That tells me what it is.
Well, no,
it's a holodeck.
It is a hologram.
Well, it is not a hologram. It is a synchronous persistent network of people represented as avatars, facilitated by network computers. One of the earliest and most influential examples of the metaverse is Second Life, initially released in 2003. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Second Life, let me help you. It's kind of like The Sims, if it was designed by the crew from the Jersey Shore. To explain Second Life more, here's another 2000s reference, Dwight from The Office.
Second Life is not a game. It is a multi-user virtual environment. It doesn't have points or scores. It doesn't have winners or losers.
Oh, it has losers.
I signed up for Second Life about a year ago. Back then, my life was so great that I literally wanted a second one. In my second life, I was also a paper salesman, and I was also named Dwight. Absolutely everything was the same, except I could fly.
Thank you, Dwight. But Second Life really did pioneer a lot of the features that make current games today so successful, like synchronous interaction with other players in a virtual world, customization of characters, objects, and environments, and most importantly, an in-game currency tied to real-world currency that powers a virtual world economy. Again, our survey with YouGov helps us understand how popular metaverse gaming is and the transactions within them. 30% of the folks we surveyed say that they play virtual world games pretty regularly. Nearly 40% make in-game purchases. Now, 44% are more likely to do so during an in-game event. So what this tells us is that metaverses are super popular with gamers, but not all of the platforms are the same. For example, Minecraft is more focused on creating, building, and surviving in a world that you create, while Roblox is more about playing in environments built by other players on Roblox. Fortnite is a little different because there is an objective, be the last person standing. But at the end of the day, across these popular platforms, the core tenets are similar, and they were all pioneered in Second Life. And the audiences on these popular platforms have ballooned over the last few years. So we're seeing a huge growing audience who is increasingly spending more time and money on these platforms. And this presents really interesting opportunities for brands to get involved. Let's take a look at a few examples. Now, there have been a lot of interesting activations on Roblox, but one of my favorite ones is from Gucci. To celebrate their 100th anniversary, Gucci opened a physical installation in Florence called Gucci Archetypes. It was a multi-room, multimedia exhibition, an immersive sensory experience featuring historic moments from the brand. Gucci took this installation and brought it into the Roblox metaverse with the Gucci Garden, a virtual realm created entirely in Roblox. Attendees could move through different rooms and could purchase exclusive items. And the community was very excited about this.
This is a beautiful Gucci gown. Oh, no way. Please let me buy it. Oh, thank gosh. Okay, we're going to get variant 2. Oh my gosh, I got a badge. Can we also buy variant 1? Okay, let's buy both. Okay, so we got both, obviously. Just in case. Like, I just want everything I can get.
This quote from Gucci captures why they decided to do this. While fashion and art may feel out of reach, the metaverse is bringing them closer and making them more accessible for millions of people. And that was Gucci Garden on Roblox. Let's move on to Minecraft. Reporters Without Borders wanted to raise awareness against press censorship in the world, and so they created the Uncensored Library on Minecraft, led by Media Monks, DDB Berlin, and Blockworks. This is a virtual library filled with censored articles by journalists in countries where the freedom of press is suppressed. Uncensored Library was a Webby winner last year. Now, let's look at Fortnite, which is probably one of the more popular platforms for brand activations because it offers a modern experience with a powerful graphics engine that can help drive more visually complex experiences. Now, we've all seen Travis Scott's astronomical concert and Ariana Grande's Rift Tour. LeBron James did something similar to promote his film Space Jam: A New Legacy. Players could purchase 2 skins of the King James with a few outfits, including a virtual version of his new sneaker in collaboration with Nike, the LeBron 19. Epic also partnered with Ferrari to bring one of the car maker's legendary sports cars to Fortnite, the 296 GTB hybrid sports car, which is the first licensed car to appear in the game. French food distributor Carrefour Supermarket also got into the mix, launching the Healthy Map in Fortnite, a battle royale style map where the only way to regain health points is to eat nutritious food. Our last example is going to look at Balenciaga, which decided to release its 2021 collection online instead of a traditional runway show. They leveraged a virtual lookbook, which was built on Unreal Engine. Balenciaga also became the first luxury brand. 4 of the game's most popular characters were made over with Balenciaga outfits, hoodies, bags, sneakers, and more. Coming full circle, Fortnite and Balenciaga then collaborated on a set of co-branded apparel that you could purchase in real life. And it also led to this cool 3D activation in Times Square, New York, and Piccadilly in London, featuring popular characters like Doggo. This is where we see the future going with metaverses, the blending between virtual and in real life, and more experiences coming full circle. With that, we have reached the end of our first chapter. Let's take a break, have a sip of water, and enjoy the awesomeness that is Elon Musk dancing. Now let's move on to our second chapter, live streaming. When I think of live streaming, I think of sports mainly. MLB, for example, was one of the earliest platforms to live stream games, winning multiple Webby Awards since the early 2000s for their innovative platform. Or Twitch, which brought easy live streaming to the masses, primarily targeted at gamers. Or more recently, podcast hosts, who are increasingly live streaming their recording sessions, such as Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay for their Higher Learning podcast. Or massive brand stunts, like this one from Red Bull with their incredible space jump. But these are not the live streams that I've been really thinking about recently. Because the other day I was scrolling on the Amazon homepage and I saw this live stream video. Now it's someone from the Amazon Influencer Program demonstrating and hawking products. These videos run 24/7, and as I looked at it, it kind of reminded me of something else. QVC? Not sure how many people remember these old school infomercial style shows that featured some weird products. And you know what? QVC is still going strong. They're still live, still selling life-changing juicers, and now it's interactive. You can buy the juicer as you watch the show. And they're also doing quite well. Last year, QVC did nearly $12 billion in sales. So needless to say, a lot of brands are beginning to get into live stream commerce. Nordstrom recently released its own live stream channel with a lineup of virtual events, including makeup lessons, wine tastings, and dance classes. Petco streamed a dog fashion show on Facebook Live, and over 1 million viewers tuned in for the 22-minute live stream. The live stream shows were a success, with sales double of what the company had forecasted. Walmart has also been very active in this space, experimenting with a TikTok live stream over the winter holidays last year. And they continued it into the spring with the Shop Along Beauty Edition, which gave users a chance to shop for items featured in creator content directly on the TikTok app so that they never had to leave the platform. And more recently, Walmart really blew it out for back to school this year with their Homecoming live event, featuring celebrities like Chance the Rapper, Imagine Dragons, and others. And it was also hosted by Noah Schnapp and Madison Bailey. What's really interesting is that this entire event was hosted on Walmart's own live platform. So why are all these brands doing live streams? Because people are watching more of it, 27% more to be exact. And they're also shopping more as a result of it. Once again, our survey results in partnership with YouGov help us understand this a bit more. 56% of the people we surveyed watch live stream content at least once a month. 62% of that content is for entertainment, which, by the way, does not include sports. Also, 37% of the people we polled watch influencer or creator live streams. And more interestingly, 46% have purchased a product or a service they saw during a live stream or would consider doing so. This is part of the reason why live stream commerce is such a fast-growing market, with sales projected to hit $26 billion by next year in 2022. Now, there is a playbook for live stream commerce, and it's coming to us from China. And no day captures the scope of live stream commerce better than Singles Day, or 11/11, which essentially is a celebration of e-commerce. Pioneered by Alibaba, 11/11 has grown into a behemoth of a shopping festival where users can shop products as they're being live streamed about, they can play games to get coupons, and you combine all of this with Alibaba's impressive logistics and fulfillment technology, many shoppers will get their purchases delivered to them in less than an hour. Last year, Alibaba generated $56 billion in revenue on a single day, i.e. Singles Day. For comparison, Cyber Monday in the US generated around $10 billion. Needless to say, the live stream commerce market in China is booming, and it's projected to grow 10x in the next 5 years. This is what is so exciting to retailers about the future and the potential for live stream commerce. But let's come back to the viewing experience for a bit. I'm not really sure what is happening here with the kettlebell, the sponge, but the truth is I really can't stop watching because it's pretty hypnotic. Well, these demonstrations and pitches have been honed to perfection for engagement. Shopping, in general, sparks your dopamine, and you get a jolt of potential reward right off the bat when you're watching it. Now, you combine that with the aspirational and the status-enhancing qualities of the products. Again, here it's not as direct as buying jewelry or clothing, but they're selling convenience, which is a tried-and-true tactic. Lastly, and most importantly, there is the parasocial relationships that these hosts foster. They're not selling to you directly. They're having a conversation, and you just happen to be there watching and listening. It's like we're a bunch of friends hanging out in a kitchen during a dinner party where someone's showing you this new gadget they just got. Does that remind you of something? Of course, social media. You're scrolling through, catching glimpses into the lives of people you know, and many you don't. It turns out that the successful strategies for influencer building are the same as the training for QVC hosts. So it makes total sense that marketers and brands and platforms are trying to bridge the gap from selling influence to directly selling products. As a result of this, we are seeing some very interesting and unexpected activations, such as PacSun's event to debut its collaboration with ASAP Worldwide, ASAP Rocky's brand. The first event was streamed from its Soho store featuring PacSun model and TikTok influencer Matthew Simino, who has over 1 million followers on TikTok. He answered questions about the drop and explained the items. It was so successful that PacSun did a second event with influencer Jordan Love. Amazon used its Prime show, Making the Cut, to also break into live stream commerce. Each episode, contestants designed a look that was made available to shop on Amazon Prime right after. They hosted a live stream event to go behind the scenes of the show. Here's season 2's winner, Andrea Pitter, and show host Tim Gunn talking about the finale. Attendees can view and purchase Andrea's line Pantora while watching. We see this trend only expanding in the future. So whether you're in the market for a new juicer, new gear for your best friend, or you're just watching your favorite shows, live stream commerce will most likely be a part of it. And it doesn't matter if you're a massive retailer or someone running a small business off a WordPress site. You can still become an influencer and live stream your products with platforms like Bamboozer, which makes live video shopping accessible to anyone who wants to host one. So who knows? In the future, some of us, such as my colleague Jeff here, will begin to hawk products from the comfort of their own kitchen. And that was the end of our second chapter. Now, before we wrap up, I would like to leave you with some takeaways. Let's begin with the chapter we just completed, live stream commerce. More and more viewers are watching more live stream content for entertainment, not just sports, and this includes creator and influencer content. Almost all social platforms offer live streaming capabilities and are building out commerce integrations to facilitate on-platform sales. Lastly, live streaming offers valuable interactions with an audience to discuss product features and the opportunity to foster and reinforce brand relationships through experiences or influencers. And let's go back to our online gaming chapter. Virtual worlds provide brands with access to a large, engaged audience that are spending both time and money on the major gaming platforms. These are great opportunities to create immersive experiences that provide both brand and player value, and introduce and bridge virtual to in real life via products and experiences. We expect these integrations to only continue to grow in the future. And that is the end of our Webby Talk, Way Too New. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with all of you today. And I also want to share with you that entries for our 26th Annual Webby Awards are open, and our early entry deadline is this Friday, October 29th. To learn more and enter, please visit webbyawards.com. Thank you.
Hey, that was great. It was I like that you kept it light. You know, there's plenty of not light things to watch right about now, but that was fun. First time I've seen the Elon Musk dancing. That was pretty funny, and you made me feel a little old there, like all of the references that made it seem like you were throwing it back, to the good old days with the Office clips and Second Life. Like all that stuff seemed super recent. It's not really, I guess.
No, I hear you. I mean, yeah, talk about feeling dated. That's the same for me as well. But it's funny. Like a lot of these things, we kind of got a glimpse in the early 2000s, and it was kind of cool to see it coming to to fruition. And to your point about keeping it light, I mean, that was kind of the point, right? We don't really know what normal is anymore. It's so hard to define. It's so hard to pin down. And things
other than a show by the makers of Glee, right? That was the new normal. This
is true. That was they were definitely, I want to say they were ahead of their time with that one.
Yeah. But no, it is funny to see the parallels though. Like you see the Minecraft clips, and then you see the Second Life clips from 20 years ago, and the parallels are crazy. What's old is new, and like you said, it was kind of cutting edge stuff at that time.
No, totally. And I think that's kind of what's also fascinating as we were preparing and like doing the research and actually thinking through. One of the things that was really interesting was, in a way you were able to see certain things that are yet to come or kind of catch a glimpse of where they could go. And with live stream commerce, that was kind of interesting because, I remember like, I don't know, again, I'm dating myself here, like 15, 20 years ago, I was like, you'd have your favorite radio show host that you'd listen to while driving your car in the morning. And then they were on TV and you're like, well, this is great. I can just watch that. And now I'm thinking, well, I've got my favorite podcast hosts, and sure, I can listen to them, but I could also just watch them, which is kind of a different experience. It's kind of, you're meshing the two. And and we saw that also with like just thinking about like where live stream and shopping could go, right? Like the whole thing with what's happening in China, it's so cool because you're kind of getting a glimpse into where this could potentially go. So yeah, you're totally right. I mean, not only is are the 2000s, early 2000s making a comeback, but I feel like we're getting a sense into what the next decade could potentially hold.
Yeah, and it seems like the past decade really has been all about on demand. Like so many people stopped watching, over the air television and moved to a Netflix or DVR even, several years before that. So it was all about what can we do on our schedule. So that it's really interesting to me to see the shift back to live kind of being, the leader again or moving that direction. And I think that's kind of, people personal preferences maybe is like they feel that connection more, and a lot of what you were talking about was that connection, that relationship building. And we see that a lot with podcasting is it's almost exclusively on demand, but with platforms like Clubhouse and Fireside and some of these like Spotify's coming out with their own streaming kind of live audio room type things, Facebook, Twitter, everyone's doing it. And it really is like 5 years ago even we were saying like, hey, it's all about on demand, on your own schedule, and now it's going back the other way.
No, you're absolutely right, Dan. And I'm kind of curious. I mean, just from from everything podcast movement sees that's happening in the industry. I mean, you mentioned obviously a lot of these big platforms and producers are making that shift to live stream. I'm also curious. I mean, do you feel like somehow during the pandemic our sort of relationship with audio has also changed to some extent? I mean, because I was just thinking like you take our lives, I guess, as an example, 2 years ago, right? The podcast, for me at least in New York City, it was a thing that I listened to when I was on the train. So the on-demand function was so important to me. But now, because we've been working from home and we're all working remotely, or there's sort of limited kind of get that old schedule or that routine, I do find myself drawn towards something that is live. And so I'm kind of curious. I mean, are you sort of seeing that on your end with what's happening in the industry?
Yeah, and it's for several reasons, I think. Like, first of all, the pandemic, like you said, kind of shook everything up. And for the first several months, everyone was like, oh, that's cool. We can get on Zoom calls and it's just like we're in the office. So like, that's great. But then people started saying, okay, now I'm like having to get dressed or put on my makeup or do my hair, even though I am at home. So then it was like, okay, sweatpants on the bottom, but I'll still like on the top look like, we're in the office. And then people started shifting to like, hey, we can do Zoom calls without the camera on. Like that became normal. So I think that kind of like pandemic shift led to, like a Clubhouse where it was audio, where, okay, we can like have these conversations or be consumers of these live conversations, but it doesn't have to necessarily be video. Like it doesn't have to be something happening on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. Like we can listen to these things. So that was like kind of the pandemic side of things. But then in audio, like that live element for like podcasting and what we see on a regular basis now in these conversations podcasters are having, it's really about the connection and the deepening of relationships with the listener. So whether you're a podcast that has 100,000 fans or 50 or 100 fans, if you can do something live that creates a two-way conversation, that's kind of that next level beyond just putting out a weekly on-demand podcast. And we see a whole lot of interest from people wanting to do that, wanting to find out like, hey, who is it that's listening to my show? Okay, now that I know who it is, how can we, connect with them? And because anybody who's a podcaster who's watching this, they know that one of the biggest banes of our existence is, okay, we put out a show every Monday. We see we get 100 or 500 downloads. We know like, okay, our mom's one of them. Myself and my co-host, we're two of them. What are those other 97 or what are those other 497 people come from? And it's really hard. Like you don't hear from them on social media. Maybe they won't email you. But when you create that live environment where they can hop in, chat with you, that for whatever reason just draws those listeners in a little bit more. And it's really an exciting thing for podcasters to do because it kind of opens up a whole new world in not just the content, but like I said, just that community around your show.
Yeah, I can totally see that, Dan. And I think, it's interesting to me. I find that whole sort of space of live podcasting just really exciting because, again, it's not just a shift from on demand, but I think in a lot of ways, it's also where our sort of, at least from our sort of perspective with the Webbies, where we're seeing like the evolution of the internet and specifically what that means for audio and podcasts, right? Because when you move from sort of on demand to live, it's not just the audience experience and the production experience that changes, but it's ultimately sort of what that entire sort of, the gift that it brings, like to a listener or to a presenter, like that completely changes, because you're absolutely right. You go from something that's super scripted, that has kind of, I don't want to say a formula, but there's like, you're definitely, you're thinking through, and you're saying, okay, hey, these are these things that I really want to go through, and I want to think through, and I want to talk about, etc. And then you have a chance to edit. But when you're doing it live, I mean, it's very different. The experience is very different. I feel, that what you take away from it is very different. So yeah, we're super excited about that. And I think, again, for us, like podcast is, one of our fastest growing categories here at the Webby Awards. And, this year we have, we introduced a ton of new categories just to kind of capture that. And one of the ones that, I'm particularly very excited about is, we've got one for interview and talk show, and also for co-hosts and hosts, which we had last year. But then more importantly, like, featured guests. And kind of what we're trying to do here is really look at that sort of, next evolution of where it's going, where it's not just about the script and the production, but it's also about that sort of, impromptu experience that happens when you've got something happening live. So that's kind of where our head is at.
Yeah, and I like that. It's funny. You think about some of the most popular traditional podcasts that are still very popular, like your This American Life, Ira Glass, or Radio Lab. It's very produced, but like that's not how these people talk in real life. So when you get that opportunity to have a little bit more, real life connection, and then on the live element, like I keep thinking back to like Saturday Night Live, the audience reacts the most when someone messes up, right? Like when they follow the script correctly, it's funny. They laugh at the jokes. They, kind of react that way. But then when someone forgets their lines or breaks character, the crowd goes wild. Those moments, go viral on social media. So, I mean, that just, that's however long SNL's been going on. That's just like that proof that, yeah, the audience likes what you want them to see, but sometimes what like they see on accident is what really builds those relationships. Like anyone who's watching right now, like when I first popped on the screen, my light fell from the shelf above me and fell. So I went from being, light to dark, and not that that's like an SNL moment, but like those types of things that happen, they make you seem, real, and not that we're the celebrities on the screen, but in the podcast sense, it just really, again, I keep going back to relationship building, and, at the heart of it, it's all about that relationship building. So, yeah. And kind of like you said, with the interviews and the guests and some of that more unscripted content, I really think that's not necessarily the direction podcasts going, because like we see fiction podcasts, which is the opposite, growing really big too. So, I mean, I guess it's just the growth of the medium overall. And really, as more listeners come in, those listeners kind of pick what they like the most of, and then, kind of dive in there. And at this point, there's kind of something for everyone.
No, completely agree. And I think, I want to kind of wrap up slowly on that one note, which is relationships, because it's kind of the central theme here, right? That's definitely what we're seeing with live streaming, even when it comes to podcasts specifically. But also when you go back to the, to the chapters that we discussed, or we looked over the presentation, like online gaming and live stream commerce, it's kind of a funny thing, right? Because at the end of the day, like a lot of people want to get into metaverses because it's a chance of building those relationships in a very different way, right? And so for us at the Webbies, again, like we're trying to like sort of see, okay, like where could this potentially go? And so, for example, this year we're honoring, best social gaming experience, right? Because in a way, so we're saying that it's not just about playing a game. It's not just about playing a game with each other. It's also about the relationships you can potentially form, while doing that. Same thing with social and shopping, right? We have a category this year for best social campaigning and social shopping experience, and I want to bring it back to that idea of relationships, just because everything you just said about, what an audience takes away, whether it's your light falling down or me desperately needing that sip of water after the presentation, it's basically what helps build that relationship. And I think that, in my opinion, is going to be probably the best thing that's going to come from where, live streaming and the metaverse is headed.
Yeah, and I guess if we have any kind of learning experiences for the podcasters who are watching, exactly like you said, you're not giving away the awards for the, the live stream commerce who's selling the most, right? It's not about like, hey, this commerce channel is doing the most in sales. It's they're the ones that are the most engaging, the most entertaining, and long term, that brand of that, that person doing the live stream, that's probably going to take that channel way further than whatever it is they're selling and how many of those widgets they sold. So and same thing with the gaming. I know a lot of the best gamers on Twitch that always have the largest streams. It's not necessarily the people that are the best, it's the ones that are the best at engaging the audience and being entertaining while they're, whatever their shtick is, whatever their bit is, like they do that way, just as good or better than they actually play the game. So, for podcasters, the same thing, like find out what that platform is, whether it's, having a presence on Twitter, or whether it's having a Facebook group that you're active in, or whatever that, or whether it is a live stream like we've been talking about here, whatever that thing for you is, to really kind of humanize, yourself as the host, but also the person that's putting out the podcast, create that interaction with the audiences, and really, kind of open up that second dimension, or that second world, I guess, for your audience.
Oh, I love it. The second dimension. Awesome. Well, with that, Dan, we have reached time. Thank you so much for joining us. It was truly a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking time out of your afternoon. And thank you to everybody who's watching us right now for joining us for our very first virtual community event, Wake to New.